Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports Network and the host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show, and you're watching Our Lady of Sports, Sonia Pearson, host of Prim and Proper Sports. Thanks for watching.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of Prim and Proper Sports. I'm your host, Sonia Pearson. I hope everyone has had an amazing week, an amazing month thus far. Thank you so much. Right now, let me go ahead and thank you guys so much for all of the continued birthday wishes that I'm getting on all my social media platforms. Make sure, like you heard Max say, coming on, download the Roku app so you too can be in the know when we have sports breaking news 24/7 without the cost of cable, and hop on over to Huddle Sports Network on Fire TV, where you too can also be in the know on more sports. You guys, I hope it's an absolutely amazing day for you, because it's certainly one for me. I have a very special guest tonight. For the first time gracing my platform is none other than touring the AFC South and host of Women Work Podcast, Mike Patton. Now, one thing about Mike, he is from Nashville, Tennessee. You guys, they got some snow today, so I'm definitely grateful that he actually has time for us tonight. He's a freelance journalist. He also writes for the Nashville Voice and NABJ's Black News and Views website. He's also a member of the Pro Football Writers Association and has been a credentialed member of media at Tennessee Titans games for the last 2 seasons. Please join me in welcoming my co-host for tonight, Mike Patton. Mike, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing amazing. Thank you so very much for making the time and coming on tonight. I know you all are having some inclement weather out there in Nashville, so I'm very grateful that tonight you have found yourself on the Prim and Proper platform.
Yeah, definitely. I would say we had some inclement weather, but I'm pretty sure the people up north would tell us, man, that is nothing. Basically, what I would hear.
Yeah, New Yorkers, they just throw on their Timbs and they're good to go, and they think nothing of it. We in the South tend to shut everything down. And so tell our audience, how you got started, how exciting your bio is. And I know that's just the small bullet point information for you. How you got started with touring the AFC South and the This Woman Works podcast. And salute to you for supporting women.
Well, honestly, when it came to the Touring the AFC South podcast, I've been a writer for almost like a decade. So I've done that for almost a decade at this point, wrote it plenty of different platforms and things like that. So
Okay.
let's start there. But when it hit the pandemic, when the pandemic hit, of course, a friend of mine, you probably know him, Mr. Brian Waters, he
Oh,
actually introduced me to the Haps app. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'd go on there and give breakdowns of games and, Titans games and what they would need to do to win the game and look at, then go after the game and give you, the breakdown of what they did and didn't do to lose or win the game. Started doing that, got involved, started liking it because I never wanted to be in front of the camera. I always wanted to just be the one to, write the stories, things like that. With a friend of mine, Raphael Haynes, and also Danny Thompson, they kind of stayed on me like, hey, you need to go ahead and do a podcast. I'm like, why? So I just kept doing that, and I got more comfortable doing it, and I was like, okay, cool. Then I got to the off season, and I was like, okay, I can't talk about Titans 24/7, 365, and then do every podcast on the Titans. And I don't
right.
see anybody talking about the whole AFC South. So I was like, well, let me go ahead and do a whole podcast talking about all the teams in the AFC South, since I know people that either cover these teams, like these teams, or things like that. So I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and do that. So that's how that started back in 2021.
Okay.
And sorry, May 2021 was when this podcast, the Tour in the AFC South podcast started.
Okay.
But also with this one works, I would say that one actually, it kind of started with touring the AFC South indirectly, because my platform always has been one that is recognizing and always bringing on Black women, is also a safe space for Black women. And I continue to make sure that it was that space over the years that I've had it. And every March I would do for Women's History Month, I'd scrap all the programming and have all Black women come on and tell their stories of how they got to where they were, whether it's in sports or not. So this idea kind of been kind of sitting there and sizzling and kind of, sitting in the crock pot, kind of cooking up. Then April last year, I went ahead and launched that podcast, got it started, do it once a week, and bring on wonderful women from all different avenues in sports, like actresses to people that are women that are writing, that are writers for like scripts and movies on Tubi and all kinds of different things. So I actually brought on, I don't know if you've watched the movie Sugar Mama on,
Yes.
yeah, I actually had brought the writer from that
Oh,
actually on one of my
wow.
shows. So yeah.
That is certainly commendable, Mike. And I mean, thank you so much for myself for making such a safe space and an interesting space, and for putting Black women out there. We've been kind of behind the scenes for so long, and so of course with this network starting out as all things football from a lady's perspective, and now Prim and Proper Sports as we kind of go into a different empire, I certainly have a greater appreciation when there's a man on the other side that says, hey, I recognize you and I'm putting you on the platform so that you too can have the exposure and the voice that you need. And good evening to you, Chris. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Chris saying everyone is looking sharp on Prim and Proper Sports. Thank you so much, Chris. He joins us from time to time. Um, all right, so let's go ahead and get into, as they say, the meat and potatoes of this, the unspoken AFC South, a division that, in my opinion, has been very much akin to the NFC South, which is my home division. Of course, everyone knows I live in Atlanta, but I'm from North Carolina, so I'm a Panthers fan. I started the all-female fan club for the Carolina Panthers, the Carolina Pantherettes. And
Mhm.
we've been 11 years now. I started back in 2014, 41414. I'm always into numbers. And so the fact that, now here we are that long later, it delved into podcasting. And so here I am. But the AFC South, you guys got a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, a lot of, kind of mirroring the quarterback musical chairs that the NFC South has. What would you say as we greet Pink Fan Fur? Shout out to Pink Fan Fur. She is the voice, the image, the everything behind all the reels, the promos, the advertisements, and the media outreach for all of my guests. Thank you so much to you, Pink Fan Fur. I know you're working tonight, and you guys check her out. She just did a spinoff of this network as well. She and I sat down on Monday and had a prim, proper, and pretty platform. She's also
Mhm.
speaking of super fans everywhere. So she says happy Wednesday to me and to you, Sir Mike, as well. Um, so Mike, first of all, let's start. What would be
Mhm.
something you would say that the AFC South, particularly, let's look at each team. Now you're in
Mhm.
Nashville. You've been covering the Titans. I like the Titans. I'm not a fan, but I like them. I've gone to two games when the Panthers played them, and they have a very nice, receptive fan base. It's not super crowded. It's kind of akin to how Carolina behaves. They're very nice, very receptive. But you've been covering some of their games. What would you say that the Titans need? Looks like Will Levis started out looking like he may have been the answer, but as time has worn on, maybe he's not. Then you guys got rid of Derrick Henry, sending him to the Baltimore Ravens. We thought that that was going to give Lamar Jackson the edge he needed to get to the Super Bowl. Came so
Mhm.
close, but not yet. What are your thoughts as we start off with your home team, the Tennessee Titans?
Well, they need a lot of things. I will say that. With the new salary cap being dropped and it being actually
Yeah.
overestimated how much they're going to be able to spend, I'm pretty sure Titans fans are very happy. With the number one pick being held by the Titans, a lot of people want them to take Shador Sanders from Colorado or Cam Ward, but they're from University of Miami. However, there is the option of trading that pick and getting more picks. Now, the general manager has said he wants a lot of picks. And the best option for that would be to trade the pick to get more picks. But if he does that and then doesn't get a quarterback, are fans here going to lose it? Probably. So, it's just an interesting space for the Titans, which they spent a lot of money this offseason. I think Rand Carthon got fired unjustly because I'm
Oh,
like, they all made the decisions. They all made the decisions to bring in the players. They like to use the main word collaborative.
yes,
They like to use
yes.
that word a lot. And when it got to a point of all people being responsible, they said, "Oh no, that black man over there is responsible. Let's get rid of him." Which
Yes.
I didn't quite like that. That was frustrating to watch because I always like talking to Rand. I've talked to Rand more than a few times when I see him. So is what it is. He's not there anymore. They're moving forward, but they need a lot of different things, especially in the trenches, especially the offensive line. I would say defensive line they need a lot. They may be an edge rusher, but defensive line, boy, oh boy, they need some work there on that offensive line because it's just, yeah, the offensive tackles, they've got the left side, they're pretty solid with the two young guys over there that they drafted in the first round. But on the right side, mm-mm, it's bad. It is bad, bad, bad. And of course, the quarterback's not only going to do but so much to save all of that. So I think that's where their biggest thing is going to be and what they need to kind of focus on there and out and getting more playmakers on the perimeter of that offense as well.
Yeah, they kind of treated him like Steve Wilkes. Everybody's giving Steve Wilkes the pass the baton treatment for no reason. He was getting wins in Carolina, and then they traded him. Released him, I should say. Then he goes to San Francisco, and the offense loses the playoffs game, the Super Bowl, what have you, and Steve Wilkes gets the can, and he's the defensive coordinator. I'm like, what is happening here? So
I'll,
they
I'll tell
treat
you,
guys.
I'll tell you this, in San Francisco, because I don't know if you knew this, but even though I live here in Nashville, I am a 49ers fan.
Oh,
So,
I did not
um,
know that.
so as far as Steve Wilkes, I think a lot of it was the defense didn't look familiar, and once the defense didn't look familiar, I think that was why he wasn't retained and brought back. I think some of the vitriol he got, either was justified in terms of some of the calls in the wrong times, but
Yeah.
some of it was just kind of a little overboard to me.
Yeah, we see Chris is saying, he has a question for you, Mike. Could you see
Hmm.
Russell Wilson and his Tennessee Titans or even as a backup? Can you see Russell there?
No, I do not see Russell Wilson coming to Tennessee. However, the funny part is, I believe there's a lineage with his, I think, grandfather, I believe, with him in Tennessee State here in Nashville. So
Oh.
that would be the connection there, but I don't see him coming here to Nashville. I don't see Sierra going country.
Oh my goodness. You know what? I guess they're like since Beyonce went, Sierra's from Atlanta. She's from the South
Mhm.
anyway. So She's not coming to Atlanta because she's not trying to be around all that drama with Future. But
Right.
she may be 4 hours to the west over in Nashville. But that's gonna be, I don't know. They have a full family now. Who knows? I honestly thought maybe there would be a reconciliation with Russ over with Pete Carroll, in Las Vegas.
I
So
can see that.
yeah, that would be, he and Pete had a great relationship. You mentioned the salary cap before we, go on to the next team. I'm going to be honest before you go to, I just can't see Shador in Nashville. I don't know if it's because of his flashy style of play or just the whole production that comes along with him. And, for a long time, like Dan Lanning said, the Oregon State coach, clicks and likes, that team had been like, they brought all the rappers out, all the entertainers out. I mean, it was the prime effect. And at that time they weren't doing well. This season was a lot better for them. But I don't know. I see Shador maybe going to I see Tennessee, even though y'all have the number one pick and you do need a quarterback, for some reason I feel like you're not gonna go number one. I feel like you trade it and let Shador or Cam, or maybe you guys would get Cam, you guys get the number one pick and you pull Cam. Maybe that's the way I'm going with this, as opposed to actually getting rid of the number one pick and then banking on Cam, being present, because you do need a quarterback. Let's be clear. So what happens with
Mhm.
Will Levis?
I think Will Levis is either going to be a backup or not be here, but I truly think he's going to be battling for the backup spot. He's not going to be the starter, in my opinion. And going back to Shador, actually, Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN.com, he actually was there at the meetings that Shador is having with the Titans, and the Titans came away pretty impressed with him, actually. So
Of
they're
course, they're
actually
gonna be impressed with him. Who? It's the other
also
way around.
also I would say this is that his dad was actually he actually FaceTimed his dad so his dad could be present with the talks as well. So they all were actually present there with the talks. So I don't think he's not I don't think he would be thumb his nose up at coming to Tennessee, to Nashville, to play for the Titans. Actually, I think he actually does like the organization. And then also look at Brian Callahan, which he's also coached Peyton Manning. He's
Mhm.
coached Joe Burrow as well, among many other quarterbacks that he's coached. So I think with that lineage and things like that, I think actually Shador would actually fit pretty good here. Cam's more of the wild card because although Cam is very skilled and done a lot of different things, he's viewed more as a guy that's going to take a little bit more time to develop as opposed to Shador.
Yeah, and y'all don't have no more time for development. I mean, what was the reasoning behind getting rid of Derrick Henry? Like, I felt like he should
Well,
stay in place.
I would say this: Derrick Henry was a free agent, so he could go wherever he wanted to go.
Right.
But also, what I would say is that if you brought him back to this team, it going to make them even any better? No. They still were going to have a bad offensive line. They still were going to have the same issues, and they still were probably not going to make the playoffs. And the way Derrick Henry looked at it is, hey, I can go somewhere where I can, potentially either make the playoffs or win a Super Bowl or both. So that was going into the reasoning. Do I think he retires as a Titan? Yes, I think he'll retire as a Titan. I mean, go along the same path as a Steve McNair, a Derek Mason as well. Samari Rolle. Those are three players that actually went from the Titans to the Ravens in their next career stop. So
Oh my goodness.
it's happened a few times that Titans
Yeah.
players have left the Titans and gone to play for the Ravens. And I don't know if you remember this, but I had Ben Troop come on my show who played for the Titans. He was
Mm.
there the day that Steve McNair got locked out of the facility, and because
Oh,
they didn't want him to come in and get hurt, so they would have to pay him, and that's how he ended up with the Baltimore Ravens, because the Titans had signed him to a new contract, and then it got to a point where that contract was, I guess, too heavy for them, and they didn't want him to get hurt. So they ended up getting rid of him because they didn't want that salary cap hit. It's probably one of the worst stories in Titans history.
yeah.
Hearing that, but yeah, I don't know if you knew that story or not. But
I
yeah,
did
Ben told
not
me that
know that.
Ben was actually walking in with Steve McNair, and he was walking and talking, and like they literally closed the door, and they were holding the door, and Ben and Steve was like, on this one. Come on, y'all, quit playing. That's what Steve was saying. That's what Steve was saying on the opposite side of the door where he could not get in to the facility.
That is crazy. I mean, but they're trying to protect their assets. I mean, this is my thought. So we're going to talk about the salary cap in a minute because you brought that up, but I was going to bring that up anyway because that just dropped a little bit ago today. I'm still stuck on why would they release Vrabel if your main quarterback was injured, you're going in with Will Levis, who wasn't secure. Like, I just feel like they got rid of Vrabel. He'd only been there, since 2018, 20. Yeah. I feel like they didn't give him enough time, or maybe
Vrabel,
maybe it wasn't enough time.
Vrabel had enough time. It's just a matter of this has been a pattern going along with the Tennessee Titans. The Titans let me go back just a little bit. John Robinson hired Mike Vrabel because they fired the coach then, hired Mike Vrabel. Then when they brought in Mike Vrabel, then it got to a point where they had to pick between the GM and the coach. They picked the coach. They got rid of John Robinson, especially after he traded A.J. Brown. Then A.J. Brown torched them. So they got rid of him. That was one of the reasons. That wasn't all the reasons. He actually, none of his first round draft picks actually signed another contract with John Robinson.
Horrible.
So they got rid of John Robinson, brought in Rand, and had them work together. Then when that happened, they had to choose between Rand and Mike Vrabel because Mike Vrabel wanted a little bit more, I guess, say so. They chose Rand, fired Mike Vrabel. Then this year they bring in the new coach and they let Rand Carthon hire this coach, only for them to let go of Rand Carthon. And then a guy that he brought in is now the president of operations, which I thought it's just, if you listen to this story, it's like, it's a lot going on. They need to have a GM and a head coach in lockstep. That's why I said, or that's why plenty of people have said if they were going to fire one person, they should have fired all of them and just brought in the GM and the head coach and start from there.
Clean house. I mean, I guess it all makes sense now. So, of course, good luck to the Titans. The NFL did today come out with a new salary cap. 2025 per team salary cap is now it's going to fall in a range of $277.5 million all the way up to $281.5 million. And it's up from 255.4. That's a huge jump from last year, which means each team is going to get a $53 million increase from over the last 2 years, which is insane, which helps a lot of teams out. I mean, you got teams
Houston Texans for sure.
Right? Like these teams, I'm like, do you guys got the U.S. Mint in your backyard? How are you making this kind of money? This is what you call long money. And I mean, it's insane because last year's salary cap was an issue. This year, they're like, okay, not only are we going to bail you guys out for all y'all worried about moving these people around, some quarterbacks that are possibly going to be released and probably still will be released, but now we're going to give you some extra money on top of that to help you out with that. I mean, will that also affect, well, that's a silly question. How will it affect getting, like, say, veteran players to assist in Tennessee before we move forward from Tennessee? How would that help you guys? Like, is there anybody out there that you guys have had your eye on that you're like, I know we really can't afford him, but if we move some pieces around and now we got this salary cap increase, we could probably go after this person?
Now, one person they could go after is potentially a Trey Smith. He is from Tennessee. He is the guard. He was the guard for the Kansas City Chiefs over their historic run so far. And he's a free agent, and they're not going to franchise tag him or anything like that at all. So he would be available. He'd be a guy they would look at. Another guy you look at is Will Fries from the Indianapolis Colts as well. He's a top guard also. So those two guys are looking at that salary cap jump, and they're rubbing their hands together like Birdman because they about to get paid.
Yeah, let's move on to the Indianapolis Colts since you brought them up. Anthony Richardson, kind of out most of last season, in and out, but performed decently. I'm gonna be honest with you. The Colts are just one of these teams that they go into the season looking like, They may have a lot of promise, and especially with getting Anthony Richardson. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, injuries or what have you, the typical stuff that everybody goes on. It's just one of those things that, what do the Colts, I know you're not going to root for the rivals, but what do they need, you know, going into this next season? I mean, they're clearly going to stick with Richardson. I think he's coming to the end. Is it the end of his rookie contract? It's close to it. He may have one
He's
more
a
year.
he's getting year 3, and there's been no news of talking about them picking up his 5th-year option, which I expect them to. But this is a critical year for him.
Yeah, so
Critical
he
year.
needs to perform. He doesn't need to be out with injuries because he's been out. I think two
Mhm.
of those seasons he had injuries back to back and only came back. And I just remember thinking like, okay, they had made news that his last time he was injured, he became a dad. I'm like, oh, okay, he's injured, but you like, out here procreating, making your family. So you need to hurry up and get back to playing football, sir. That's what you're getting paid for.
He'll figure it out. But the thing
Yeah.
I would say is last year was kind of like his rookie year anyway, because his entire rookie year he missed. He got injured against the Titans,
Yep.
hurt his shoulder on when he got tackled, and he was out for the year. So this pretty much was his rookie year, in my opinion. But as far as the Colts, they've got to get out of the thinking of we got to re-sign our own players. I
Hmm.
totally understand it. I get it. But you got to step outside that box. Chris Ballard has been bad about that. And then when he does step outside the box, he goes for the bargain basement guys as opposed to going and get guys that can see hope. But I will have to give him somewhat of a reprieve. He did try to get Daniil Hunter before the Texans got him. He did try to go get cornerback help as well. That didn't work either. With Jerry Sneed, tried to go get him. That didn't work either. So I can't give him credit for trying, but eventually you got to land that plane, and he hadn't landed the plane yet. So this is a big season for him, as well as Anthony Richardson, and as well as Shane Steichen as the head coach. Because Shane Steichen's play calling, I'm still trying to figure out, if you have a young quarterback, why do you not give the ball more to your running back, Jonathan Taylor, who's a top 5 running back in the NFL when you give him opportunity, but you just don't give him enough opportunities. You freeze him out against the Green Bay Packers when you have a chance to win the game. It's just that all that stuff happening during the season. Yeah, they all need to kind of fix that and work on that. And hopefully they bring in the pieces and keep some of those pieces, because they have a couple of key decisions as well at center and guard with Ryan Kelly. He's a free agent, about 31, 32 years old, projected probably a 1 or 2 year deal. And then also, like I mentioned, Will Fries, who's going to be everybody's sweetheart this offseason, trying for people to
Yes.
pull him. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on. There's still a lot of moving pieces because we literally just ended the season, and then all of a sudden we have to start planning. You got a combine coming up. The draft is just a few weeks away. I mean, it's kind of like there's an off season, but there's really not an off season because it's so much work behind the scenes. It's kind of like producing a movie. You have this
Mm-hmm.
2 hour movie, but there's been weeks and months and maybe sometimes years of production that go into the planning of just this 2 hour production. So it's the same thing with the game. You're trying to get to your 52-man roster. You start
Mm-hmm.
out with so many, like 90 people up here trying to make this team, and then you got to cut it by a certain day. You got to go to combine, see people's production. There was, some talks from some players that basically felt like if you're on a certain tier, the upper echelon, so to speak, of your team, like say a Shador Sanders, then you could skip the combine because everybody already knows how you're performing. Do you believe in that rationale?
I do honestly. I mean, you don't have to. The thing I look at is if you're going to be a top pick, why am I going to go out there and do these things to kind of bring that down? I don't have to. If you do go do that, that's fine. You go throw and all those different things, but you don't necessarily have to, because I mean your draft status is what it's going to be. The only thing that people can do is try to throw chinks at the armor at this point. I mean, because with a Cam Ward, with a Shador Sanders, they don't have a ton to gain on the field, in my opinion. It's more off the field, I think, in terms of getting comfortable with the coaching staff and the organization and things like that. Guys like maybe a Kyle McCord or or Will Howard and guys like that. Yeah, they got some work to do. They got to show up on the field. But yeah, there's different tiers of different folks, and yeah, you just not much you can earn if you're or earn from it, on the field if you're a top prospect already and you're already pretty much sewn up to a top 5 or 10 pick.
Yeah, if anything, it may, subject you to injury. We've seen that happen,
Mm-hmm.
a small slip, and next thing you know, you got an Achilles issue that you didn't have, and you've been trying to, preserve yourself, kind of like you mentioned, Stephen, there earlier, preserve yourself for the game. And hello to you, J Train. And we have a question. I kind of want to hold it till we go through all the questions. I'm going to pin it for now, and then I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to come back to it. So, Chris, we'll come back to your question in just a minute because it is about the salary cap, but it's an overall question about teams. And I do want to kind of run through the South. Here we are at the 30-minute mark. Normally, we give a pause for the Huddle Sports Network, but I went ahead and ran that commercial at the beginning of the show. So we're going to continue on. Welcome to the second half of my show here with Mike Patton, touring the AFC South and This Woman Works podcast. We're sitting here talking about the AFC South. He's already given us an overview about This Women Works podcast, where he gives a platform to African American women, Black women, no matter what they are, actresses, producers, even sports entrepreneurs, and the such like. And so, just a great guy. Make sure you guys, Mike, tell our people how they can follow you, how they can find you. I was literally going to tell everybody, hey, make sure you guys find him and follow him. I'm going to take the banner down so that they can actually see your handle here.
Okay. All right. Well, of course, you can find me on, I like to call it the artist formerly known as Twitter. I don't like to call it Twitter, and I won't call it X because the only X I recognize is DMX and Malcolm X.
Okay.
So, you can find me on the artist formerly known as Twitter at Mike Patton 82. That's MikePatton 82. Of course, on Instagram and Threads at that's THA, not THE, _general_MP. So yeah, you can find me on those mediums probably the most. And of course, YouTube, you can find This Woman Works and touring the AFC South at the Mike Patton Network. So yeah, I'm definitely there as well.
You said the first one was Mike Patton 82?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put that in your highline. That's gonna be the at part, and then it's also, you said the THA. What was the second part?
_general.
The _general. Yeah, that's it.
_MP. I know it's a mouthful. I know. I probably should fix it and change it at this point. No, MP.
Oh, MP. Let me go back and change that, because we're gonna be like.
My apologies. I'm giving you all this different stuff.
All right, no worries. So we got you up there with your nice handle now. So there you go. I forgot. I was like, the whole time I was like, something is missing, but I was like, oh, this is the handle. All right. So let's see. J Train has a question here. He says, are the Titans a lock to draft a quarterback or Abdul Carter? The latter is a generational talent. Oh, okay, Abdul Carter.
Well, I like Abdul Carter. I'm pretty sure Jeffrey Simmons likes Abdul Carter, and he's a great pass rusher. However, I'd be kind of careful using the word generational talent. The last time I remember somebody using that was when a particular quarterback was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, tabbed as a generational talent, and his name is Trevor Lawrence.
Yes.
And right now, we have not seen him be a generational talent. So I'd be careful using that word. Those words. But I would say Abdul Carter is supremely talented. Would it surprise me if they draft Abdul Carter? No. It wouldn't surprise me with anything the Titans do, because, everything is close to the best right now. But, they do need a quarterback. So, it's I would say if anyone tells you they know what the Titans are going to do in the draft, I would say they're probably going to try to sell you a summer house in the middle of South Dakota too. Yeah. My beach.
Yeah, so and that's exactly right. Like, sometimes it's these switcheroos at the last minute. Like, for instance, I always have to reference my team. The Panthers did not have a first round pick last year because we're still paying back Chicago. Well, at the last minute, voila, we moved up to the number 31 position, or number 30, one of those two, and we got us Xavier Legette. So bam on that.
Country grammar. That's my guy, country grammar. That's what I call him. I call him country grammar because that's like, yeah, that is my guy right there. Every time I hear him talk, I'm like, it is amazing.
Yes, he is. So the area, the town he's from, I know people from that town. So I'm trying to plug and play with them to see if I can't get Xavier on my show. He's literally right down the road from where I grew up, like an hour maybe. But the point is, I know people. I grew up with people. Like my grandfather was a minister, and so we used to go down to Xavier's hometown and do like church stuff and stuff. So, and it's super small, so it ain't gonna take much for me to plug and play Xavier. I know I have not been down there since he was born, though, seriously, but still, I'll locate you. I'm locating you, Xavier. So today there was a couple of Panthers players that reached out to me on social media, and they said they've been watching the show. So I need y'all to plug in Xavier. You know who you are. I don't want to mention your names because I'm getting you guys on the show too. But please let Xavier know that I'm from Lumberton. And as soon as you say that, he'll be like, "Oh, it's right on the street from Mullins," and that's gonna be it.
Your impression of him is quite good. Quite
Yeah,
good. I mean,
he doesn't move his teeth. He'll be like,
no.
he'll be doing the show like this. Like that, you know. And you like you.
But I can understand perfectly what he's saying because I'm like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
from the South. I get it. But, people
Right.
that are not from the South, they looking like, what is he talking about? I'm
They're
like,
like, how did he
yeah,
sign
you
the
ain't from here.
contract? They're like, wait a minute. I'm like, he's very intelligent. It's just the accent.
Very.
Don't they equate, sometimes us Southerners get a bad rap. I mean, I'm on this platform, and this platform is out of the North, as they say. And it's Northeast Professional Sports. And so there's a lot of New Yorkers that come on here, a lot of Connecticut personnel, Philadelphia. There's an area that they call them, I can't think of the word geographically right now, but Northeasterners, I'll say that. And when I first got on the network, they used to make the comments like to the producers, like, who's the country girl? Like they would literally say that, and they pulled the comment up, and they literally, a couple of them started calling me Country Sonya. I'm like, stop calling me Country Sonya. I am not that country. Like I can be that country because where I'm really from, we really do talk like this. And so I don't even talk like that most of the time. I've had a few communication classes because I want to be a journalist, and I didn't do that. So don't call me country, but it comes out when I get hyped up. But, to Northeasterners, they think, we all from the South, but we're highly intelligent. So Xavier, definitely want to have you on. All right, so moving past the Colts and the Titans, we're now going to move to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Since you alluded to Trevor Lawrence, went down with his big injury, had an opportunity to bring none other than Daniel Jones, who New York absolutely hates and want to get rid of him. He's now starting quarterback at the end of the season for the Jaguars, all because
that's Mac Jones. That's Mac
yeah,
Jones
yeah,
on that
Matt
one.
Jones. Sorry,
That was the New England Patriots, and boy, oh
yeah,
boy.
Patriots boy, like he gets a chance to be down there. I mean, but what's crazy?
Can I interrupt you for 1 sec?
Yeah.
All right. I will say this. I can't call him Mac Jones. I have to call him McCorkle Jones because he hasn't earned the Mac nickname.
Woo.
I gotta call him McCorkle until he earns Mac.
Right.
So, but go ahead.
No. So, the first question I'm going to ask, and I definitely respect that. He is not the Mac of nothing. Mac and what? Like they were calling him Mac and Cheese when he came to Atlanta to play against Atlanta. People in the stadium was like, Mac and Cheese. I was like, wow. I go to Falcons games. I'm just, because I live here, and I don't always get to Charlotte. So they were like, Mac and Cheese. I was like, why are they saying that? And they like, Mac Jones. I was like, oh, Mac and Cheese. It kind of went right over my head. But I have to start. Let me hold on. We got a couple of questions first before I get. Oh, Bo is laughing. Hi, Bo. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And hi, Jameson. Jameson says, I like the accent. Hi, Jameson. Good to see you. Thank you for tuning into my show tonight. Jameson is my friend that grew up. Like, I've seen Jameson from a small kid. Like, I'm so proud of who he is today. Bo Crouch said, yeah, Mission Mac, though. That's it. And Bo is the person at the backdrop you see here. His name and information is rolling on the tickler below. If y'all need any decor, holla at Bo. He is Coast to Coast Sports. He just covered the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama a couple of weeks ago. Bo is that dude, and he's also my colleague over at Northeast Professional Sports. So, Bo, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And Bo just sent me a clip. You saw me probably look to the side for a minute. I need to start this next segment since we're talking about Duval.
Oh God, that was hilarious to me. I actually did a whole segment on my show with that. That
Yes.
was that was hilarious to me. I'm like, I don't know what this man was on. Maybe he thought he was singing the Love Boat theme, and wanted to bring it to Duval or something.
I'm like, dude, how are you coaching a team in the same state? Like, and you don't even know Duval. I mean, they were like, let's get a good Duval. Everybody's like, rise up. Everybody gets that mantra. He's like, Duval. What?
Yeah.
So as a result, there is a list of head coaches that may get fired first, and he is amongst them on the top level. I don't know if it's just because he came in there saying Duval or what, but they've got Ben Johnson, Brian Schotten, whatever his name is, dude from Dallas is the offensive coordinator.
Schottenheimer
Just got promoted, yeah. Mm-hmm. But Liam Cohen is there. So we're before we get anybody else, because Liam is the one that we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. First of all, Trevor's got to get healthy. They gave him all this money to stay with this team. It seems like quarterbacks that hold out for these big contracts, Dak Prescott included, all of a sudden the first year they hold out for all this money, they go down with a season-ending injury. I don't know what it is. And Trevor was paid quite handsomely and does not have anything to show for it. And now you're adding a new coach, Mr. Duval himself. And so if you guys don't know that clip, like, I should have pulled it up.
That is hilarious. It's still funny.
I mean, so if you don't know, everybody in Jayville, they don't even call it Jayville. They're like, Duval. Like, they have it on it. It's Duval County. And the first thing they ask this coach when he comes on, so let's, what you got to say for the county? Duval. Sir, are you whispering a secret? So y'all pull that clip. It's super funny. But now Trevor has Mr. Duval himself as a head coach. No longer the experience. It was Doug Peterson, right?
Yep, Dougie
That's
P.
crazy. That's crazy to me that you got rid of Doug Peterson, who was with the Eagles for so long. And I think Doug got a ring, right?
Doug got a ring. He definitely did. But I can tell you, it wasn't all sweet in Jacksonville.
I saw.
Or I could tell you the backstory of that is the reason why they got rid of him is because, of course, he wouldn't take over the offense from his boy Press Taylor. He was going to let Press Taylor, Press Taylor is actually the brother of Zach Taylor, the head coach of the Cincinnati Bengals.
I didn't even put that together.
Yeah, he wouldn't take the play calling duties away from him when the offense struggling. So that helped to get him fired, basically. And then plus he was getting called in media and all those different things too. It just to me that was the biggest reason I think he got fired, and the team just was like, eh.
But he thought he earned his stripes, that he thought he could do that. You can't be insubordinate when you still getting the money. He's literally being like, I'm gonna run this my way, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, he wanted to run it his way, and it's more the fans that were asking for that as opposed to the team. But yeah, Trent Baalke definitely wasn't necessarily yelling from the rooftops about everything, but he had to. I'm honestly shocked that Trent Baalke stayed as long as he did either. But This team actually it has talent. This team has talent. They just can't get going in the right direction. Like, I'll give you an example. Last year, there were people that were thinking they were going to challenge the Houston Texans for the top of this division. And I told them, I was like, look, they are talented, but they are Jacksonville. Yeah. That's really the answer I gave every time. And when I told people that they would finish last in the division, people were looking at me like I was crazy. I went on 1010XL in Jacksonville, which is the flagship station. And I said, hey, they'll finish last in this division. And people were calling me everything but a child of God in the comments. And then towards the end of the season, look, They're right there with the Titans.
They almost did. They
Bottom of
had
the
one more game, and I think it was against y'all. They had one more game that they were ahead of you
division.
guys. Ugh.
Yeah, the
But
Titans would have won that game. They would have been they would have been in the basement, and the Titans would have been third place.
that's crazy. Yeah, I'm looking at the standings right now. I mean, whew, I don't know. You guys, well, not you guys. I'm sorry. The Jaguars, Duval, was 3-5 at home,
Yeah, they were
and
bad.
the top two teams, the Texans and the Colts, and of course we'll talk about the Texans. I didn't even mean to go in that order, but as we get ready to wrap up here the next 12 minutes, the time flies by. We'll talk about the Texans, but what is Jacksonville? First of all, is Trevor gonna really be the long-term answer, especially now that you've brought in this new head coach?
He's got to be. To be honest, they paid him well enough to be so. And then also his contract, I don't think it kicks in this year, but I think it's next year it kicks in. Or either this year or next year his contract kicks in and for his cap, which makes him a top 5 quarterback in terms of average pay per year, by the way. But he had some influence in this head coach coming in. So he had a little bit of input. So Liam Cohen is a talented guy. Oh, by the way, Liam Cohen, the connection he has with some of the AFC South already. He was actually the offensive coordinator for one Will Levis in Kentucky for 1 year. So yeah.
Not even promising at all. And Bo says Lawrence does need to figure out the unassisted fumble issue. Yes, that was absolutely crazy. I'm going to say we talked about his contract. He signed a 5-year, $275 million contract before before last season, 2024 season. And so the breakdown is like, it's like you said, it doesn't even start until next season. He's going to be like up there with Joe Burrow. And so I'm like, okay, but that AFC North is another animal. The AFC as a whole. But yeah, Trevor's getting 500 million dollars as a signing bonus, and $200 million is guaranteed. That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah, guaranteed for a roller coaster ride, basically. He basically that's literally been his career. He's had great moments and great stretches, but he's never been consistent as a quarterback. But that somehow got him $200 million guaranteed. But hey, if that's what Jacksonville wants to do, Jacksonville wants to do that. I still don't believe he's a generational talent. I think he's a talented quarterback, but he's just not consistent. And to me, you don't reward inconsistency with $200 million guaranteed. That's just what I do.
And that's their average salary is $55 million.
Yep.
He got a signing bonus that was not far from that with a 37.5. He gets $142 million guaranteed at the day of signing, and then his total is going to be $200 million that's guaranteed, and he's going to be a free agent in 2031. So Jacksonville, you're stuck with him, and I hope Mr. Duval can help him out because they are paying a lot of money, even with the salary cap being raised to $53 million. That is not enough to offset what you've already paid Trevor.
Well, I will say this: he did make Baker Mayfield his best season of his career. So there is precedent for him doing some things. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Baker that used to be with the Panthers that now is shining bright in Tampa Bay. I can't even talk about Baker. I can't talk about any former Panther without having some type of pain. And the main one is Christian McCaffrey, who happens to be injured right now. I know you're a 49ers fan, but the running back shelf life is very short anyway. And Christian carried the bulk of our team on his back. Like so many times I watched him in person, literally drag and legs keep churning. And he literally was the reason why we were winning. Then he's in San Francisco. He plays injury free the first year he's there. And then all of a sudden, both knees are now bothering you. And it's just a combination of the shelf life and the fact that he's been the dependent factor. And even this season, we saw with him and Ayuk being out for a little bit, that was pivotal for the 49ers and Mr. Irrelevant really showing why his name is Mr. Irrelevant, because without those two people, it was obvious.
I'll say this though. Brock actually did have a solid year even without those two. So I
He
would say he
did
necessarily was irrelevant.
well,
He had,
playoff purposes, I should say.
oh, I would say playoff part though. We didn't even get there. So I would say Brock is a talented quarterback. I would say he the thing I think that a lot of people look at is, does he make this happen, that happen, that happen, this happen? Well, I would say he did make more things happen this year. However, they just couldn't close out games. So I think it was more
Yeah.
defensively than offensively this year. But that's just me.
That was actually very pivotal. I want to talk about the Texans real briefly because I want to go back to that pin question earlier that Chris had for us. And
Hmm.
then I want to be able to ask you a couple of general questions about some other NFL big stuff, if I can. Hopefully, we have time. But Mike, so the I say C.J. Stroud and his Texans this year, it looked like he was having a sophomoric year, but he bounced back. They won the AFC South. 10-7, they finished at the beginning, excuse me, for the overall. And at first, like I said, it looked like CJ was having a sophomore slump. He was playing outstanding last year. D'Amico Ryan's first year coach with that team. And of course, CJ being a rookie quarterback going straight to the Texans. And a lot of times, people always ask, well, what if the Panthers took CJ over Bryce? Looking back, and I continue to have said it, it depends on the team that you're going to. I don't think CJ would have used the Panthers as well as he was able to use and be, the maturation into the league what he was with the Texans. They made magic last year. It was an anomaly for them to have a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback and to go all the way. And it wasn't because the league absolutely stunk in that division. It was because they were just that good. What happened this
Hmm.
year?
This year, offensive line was not as good as it was the previous year. You had health issues again at the wide receiver spot. I would say that's the biggest issues that they had. And of course, CJ at some points just not reading the defense as well. And it was just kind of mind boggling to some of the decisions he was making. So that's what I think is the biggest thing going this year. Joe Mixon was by far their best offensive player, in my opinion. Their most
I
consistent.
can't believe they got rid of him in Cincy. I was like, why?
They didn't want to pay him.
Yep, and they suffered. You see how they ended up after he left. Like they needed him, but Mixon was a catalyst for them. What do they need going into the draft, if anything?
O-line, and O-line. Also, they need an interior offensive lineman because they had a lot of veterans in there. They don't have a lot of young talent inside the outside of their edge rushers. So that's would be the two things. The trenches, that's what they need to draft all day, every day, and twice on Sunday in this NFL draft.
Yeah, I saw their secondary was suffering quite a bit, so they definitely need to try to reinforce all of that. Combine is going to show a lot, but the draft is going to show even more. With them winning the division, of course, they're not going to be in the top level of draft picks like they were when they got Stroud, but they're probably going to be making some maneuvers before draft day. So it's going to be interesting to see who they make trades with to try to reinforce that O-line. It's funny you brought that up because Carolina also had the same issue with their O-line. And it's crazy to think that sometimes that same O-line actually performs better, even though they're not that good. I don't know what the difference is.
It's wild, right?
It is definitely wild. It is definitely wild. And J Train says Cincinnati is in a pickle now. They're going to lose T. Higgins too. Yes, they are. Yes, they are, J Train.
They might French. There's rumors they're going to franchise tag him again.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Let me go back to this question that Chris gave us. This is the pinned question. Chris, thank you so much for bearing with us while we ran through all these other teams. With an increase in the cap, are there any teams having trouble staying above the floor? That was Chris's question.
No. No, because someone's going to overpay somebody to bring them in. So no, there's definitely not any teams that are going to have trouble staying above the floor at all. I mean, the only team you look at is Cincinnati, but Joe Burrow's contract, that's not going to allow that to happen. So there'll definitely be teams that'll be not have any trouble staying above the floor at all. I think that's more of an NBA issue as opposed to a NFL issue.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, they have money that's forever. So as we get ready to wrap up the last 5 minutes here, Mike, this has been absolutely amazing to have you on. It's been such a blessing and such a great sit down talk. Know that you have a an open invitation at any time to come back and join me on this wonderful platform here. Now, Aaron Rodgers, I have to go over to another AFC nemesis, not in the South, but in the North, as they say. Well, East. He's AFC East. Well, he was. He's AFC no now, so
Hmm.
he's nowhere.
He's parts
Aaron,
unknown.
he's parts unknown. He's probably smoking or drinking or whatever they do with mushroom sheetikes, whatever they do. I don't know how to ingest those, but he's at some mushroom convention. I mean, he seemed to have some issues in Green Bay that they ripped the Band-Aid off after he was traded to the Jets. Unbelievably, Achilles injury, the first possession of the game as a Jet, which was insane. Then he comes in this season, does not really do a lot of preseason stuff with his team, but he's more so, hey, this is the sort of thing that I'm running. Like he kind of seemed like it was the me mentality, and then the Jets, like Gladys Knight, and then the Pips. But clearly, my thing was I thought he wanted to be Tom Brady so bad. He wanted to go get Devontae Adams. He wanted to get Adam Lazard, and still could not make it happen despite having a very good team in the Jets. I mean, they had Sauce Gardner there. Hard Knocks did an expose on them. They were all lined up. What was the difference? What happened? Do you know anything? What happened as far as, Aaron basically getting basically the can?
They wanted to go in a different direction. This offensive line was bad again this year, even with the reinforcements they brought in with veterans and things like that from Baltimore, I believe. I brought in one or two from Baltimore. But yeah, just their offensive line was bad. He wasn't necessarily great himself. And then combine that with the defense that Sauce Gardner had a regression this year, I would say.
It was
He was a little bit he was doing more grabbing than he was actually moving his feet. Like I'm a former defensive back, so I'm watching his
Why you
skills
didn't
out
tell us
there.
that at the beginning of the show? That should have been
So
on your bio.
yeah, I didn't play in the NFL, of course. I just played
It
all the way through
doesn't matter.
college.
Played.
But
That's played.
I'm watching him, and he's doing more grabbing than he is actually moving his feet and using hand placement and things like that. And that's where I think he needs to go back to more of the drawing board of the technician that he needs to be at the cornerback position, as opposed to a guy that uses his raw physical ability, which I can tell he's using more of his raw physical ability than he is actually using his footwork, because he's not playing the position in terms of doing all the things you need to do at that position. Like, say if it's man-to-man coverage and you're on an island, you're going to be on the inside of them. You're not going to mess around, jump out the outside or jump head up on them. Of course, you're giving them a two-way go at that point. So to me, yeah, it's just more about being a technician with Sauce Gardner, but just overall, the Jets defense wasn't the same. And as far as the offense, they just had issues protecting the quarterback and running the football, which if you can do neither of those things, then you're going to have problems all the time.
I mean, it's kind of like, and hello to you, EB. Hi, sis. Thanks for joining us tonight. J Train says Aaron was toxic, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Aaron was the catalyst for all the issues you say. If you're not catching the passes and if you're not protecting the quarterback, to me, that seems like there is a personality issue that has blurred over into the professional, and it has affected the game.
I would say, I don't know if it's necessarily him being toxic was the issue. It's just they weren't that good. Their offensive line was just bad. Now, of course, he didn't help anything with the way he was there with the team.
At
But
all.
yeah, to me, they were just bad. And, they've got a lot of work to do. Garrett Wilson it's almost becoming time for him to get a contract extension. And that's going to be a long, hard talk, because does he want to stay there with the Jets or does he want to leave? And that'll be a question that'll be talked about a lot. Him and Sauce Gardner.
Yes, that's going to be real important. And real briefly, we got about 10 seconds left as time
Mhm.
flies by. Does Aaron come back to the league? And if so, who's going to sign him? In what role? Backup, main?
Oh, he's going to be a starter if he comes back. But, honestly, I don't see him coming back. But, if Sam Darnold leaves, I would say maybe you could see him in Minnesota and complete the whole Brett Favre transformation arc.
Yeah, yeah, literally trekking in his steps. Mike, it's
Mhm.
been amazing having you on tonight. Thank you so much for our audience, for all the likes, love, shares. We will re-air at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Northeast Professional Sports. And Mike and I will, at this point, bid you good night.